In Unity by Syann. Paul and Syann are lifelong contacts of the Zeta race and have developed a very strong relationship with beings that they work with on a daily basis. Syann categorizes the collection as energy-infused art. For this particular piece, Syann worked with the Zetas in a semi-altered light state, as they were trying to help manage the pandemic during early onset, but always respecting the free will of humanity and never contravening with universal laws. In Unity is part of a collection titled Aspects of Consciousness. There are 5 pieces to that collection of very highly constructed oil paintings. These paintings have been displayed together in museums, and Syann was actually sharing with me that they trigger emotion in people, especially when seen in person, and particularly when we have the entire collection together, hence why she calls it energy-infused art. As Syann explains it to me, the Zetas are the ones infusing the energy straight into the painting, into the imagery of the painting, as she does the physical process of the painting. So let's talk about the symbology behind this piece. So the triangle symbolizes the Zetas. The theme of the triangle is really common with the Zetas because they work in groups of 3, as in 3 parts of the same consciousness. Working our way through that circle outside in, you can tell that outer blue band that you see, it's actually representing the calmness of the Zeta energy, while the pink and lilac band inside of it is symbolizing that expansive state and the peace of the meditation where Zetas and humans come together. Interesting to note that point where the triangle meets a circle is where the Zetas are actually making a connection with humanity. The Zetas are meeting humanity via the Schumann frequency, or the natural frequency of the Earth. So that is the frequency that we work with as humans. The Zeta frequency is higher than the Schumann frequency. That outer gold band inside that blue, outside the circle, symbolizes that Zeta frequency. Finally, that inner circle symbolizes Earth and humanity. If you look at the Schumann frequency in the middle, that star, that jagged edge, you can tell that gold band is very different from that gentle, soft wave on the outer circle that's signifying the embrace of humanity, while the inner circle shows more color, just more vibrancy, but more chaos, signifying a race in distress. Peace, y'all.
Of course, you've been healed by the Zetas as well.
I was ill with an incurable disease condition from 1988 until 2012. Initially, I was extraordinarily ill. I had to leave my profession, leave everything that I valued behind. And I was bedridden for quite a long time. I had a horrible pain in my head, in the roof of my mouth. I had word finding problems. I didn't know if I was dying or what was wrong. First doctor I went to said that it looked like I had radiation poisoning, but radiation from what? You know, that's what I thought then. And I lost a tremendous amount of weight. I was too weak to be able to walk, and couldn't drive a car. I couldn't do anything for a period of time. And then eventually I started to feel a little bit better, but I would have periods where it would wax and wane. And finally, I moved beyond being bedridden with it to the point where I was like an 85-year-old woman. If I tried to work, I would feel something inside that would say, you have to stop now. If you go beyond this point, you will be bedridden. And so it was really a yoke around my neck. And it was difficult to deal with, particularly after I had written. Well, I became a writer because it was the only thing I could do without exerting too much energy. And but then speaking at conferences, that sort of thing, I'd go to bed early. And when I arrived home from the conference, I would be in bed for a day or two afterward and just feeling completely worn out. So that's when I talked to you. You offered me the opportunity to speak with Geek.
That's right.
And I think I'd spoken with him maybe a few times before I decided that I was going to ask him for healing. And so I did, and I didn't really anticipate that he would give me healing. But 4 nights later, I woke up during the night and I was in a tremendous amount of pain in my internal organs and at the top of my right leg. And I woke my husband up and I said to him, you might have to take me to the hospital. I don't know what's wrong. I had a lot of pain in the left side of my chest and abdomen. And I said, you might have to take me to the hospital or call an ambulance. And he said, well, give it a couple of minutes, see how you do. And so I did. But the next thing I knew, and I have not had hypnosis for this, I looked into my journal today and discovered this was a conscious recall. And what I consciously recalled was finding myself lying on a table. And I was in almost like a misty kind of environment. There were 2 beings that I was aware of on each side by my head. They seemed taller than my normal gray, but of course, I don't know how high the table was. But they were glowing. And I was confused about what's going on. And that's when they showed me, I don't know if it was a screen or a screen image, a holograph or what, but what I saw was the outline of my body reclined, and through the periphery of my body, I saw like little bots, like energy running through the periphery. And then I saw the organs inside my body. And I remember that one was mint green and the other was pink. And they were working on those particular organs, I felt. And I was still feeling pain, but I knew that it would be over soon. And so they finished what they were doing, apparently. I woke up in bed the next morning and I felt like I was 23 again. not an ache, not a pain, energy that I hadn't had since I was young. And it was so wonderful. So, Paul, I'll forever be grateful to you and to Keek for helping me with that. It changed my life radically.
I first met Paul Hamden at a UFO Research Queensland presentation in October 2020. We became friends and he started mentoring me and invited me, along with his wife Syann, to come to Sydney at Malaysia, where a craft had landed in 2013, to do workshops and point of origin sitting. Before I went, Syann started sending me photos of her paintings, and I was really attracted to their energy and the geometric shapes, and I wanted to buy one from her. Luckily, however, I waited until after the workshops, where we were able to craft my painting together from symbols that came up in the workshop. In the workshop, Paul created a synthetic quantum environment to enhance our connections with our higher selves. In this, we were trying to connect to symbols that were meaningful to us, that might help us connect to our race in the point of origin sitting. After the workshops, I communicated with Syann to help craft together a painting that she could do for me. I sent her sketches of my symbols and told her the colors that I was really attracted to, which were the deep blue and the magenta colors. These she used in her own intuitive way and with her painting skills and craft work. So she first of all made an underlayer that she spread the symbols around the painting. I had asked her specifically to do the triangle, but to use gold for each of the spheres in the triangle corners. And so I'm really, really grateful to Syann for her combining her artistic skills along with her own personal connection with her Zeta guides and race into providing this painting for me as a living work of art. Thank you.
I had a lesion on my nose that the doctors call actinic keratosis. And it's kind of a precancerous condition, and it could get a lot worse. And I couldn't get it to go away, or a dermatologist couldn't heal it, and that kind of thing. So I asked Paul if the Zetas could take care of it. And one night I was here in Canada and they were in Australia. They decided at one point during the session to do the healing. And it took about a minute and a half to accomplish that. So half an hour after the session, I took another picture. There was already a change that I could see. And the next day or two, there was scar tissue forming. And a week later, it was completely healed. So this happened very quickly. And after quite a period of time when nothing was changing, or it was getting worse, if anything. So that was my experience with the healing with Zetas.
And Jeannie's ear?
She couldn't hear, and she couldn't hear all her life in that ear. So it was pretty much dead. You could hear some lower frequencies. But she couldn't hear. It was useless for understanding speech and so on. Paul took her into a room that he used for that purpose. But what they did to her was provide an etheric ear. And this ear was connected directly to her auditory system in her brain. It bypassed the ear mechanism itself. I knew that the ear was outside the head, And I was able to determine that it was not stationary, so that sometimes she heard best when I spoke back here, and when up here, I tried to say the word in the same way, and she would sort of indicate which was more easiest to hear for her to hear, either the front or the back. And I saw that the position of best hearing shifted from the front to the back, and so that's a nice confirmation to me, anyway, that what he had reported was true, that the etheric ear was floating outside her head and it could move. She was now able to detect sound at say, a 60 decibel level, whereas before the audiologist had said, well, she can't hear anything up to 110 or 120 dB. Right, so there was a very significant improvement in her ability to hear. A request is in to the Zetas to try to up the gain on this ear so that she can have more use of it. So we'll see how that works out. But it was quite remarkable anyway that they were able to improve it any amount. You know, this is unusual.
Well, we had the pleasure of meeting Paul and Cyann through a mutual friend. First, we met on Zoom, and then we had the absolute pleasure of traveling to Australia and meeting them in person.
We saw Cyan's artwork and we fell in love with it. It just, such magnificent artwork. You're so talented. And we commissioned Syann to do a painting for ourselves, which is this painting right back here. It's beautiful. The colors are so vibrant. Every time we look at the painting, the energy from the painting is big. It's just so powerful and full of energy. You can almost feel it. And it's odd, but there's one part about this painting that completely draws me in, and it's this little red orb. It's like a dark brown red orb, and it just, I feel like home. I don't know. It's just really, it's like my favorite one, and all of them are gorgeous. All the orbs, the colors, everything. Syann, you've just done such an amazing job. Thank you.
And I second that. I have the painting right by my office. So basically every morning I meditate and I look at that painting, and as Jackie said, it really goes ahead and changes every time you look at it. You see a little bit more detail. So we would highly recommend anybody who's attending this wonderful festival consider obtaining one of these unique and just
Vibrant,
inspiring paintings.
While we were there, we enjoyed a sitting with Paul and Syann, and Paul brought forth evidential proof of a Zeta being. We saw the Zeta with our own eyes. We experienced it, and it was mind-blowing, and still is mind-blowing. And it was Bob, me, and Syann were witnessing. Now, Bob and I are both mediums, so we're used to seeing things that are, you know, a little out of the ordinary. However, in this sitting, I think we were all really blown away. Paul brought forth the Zeta being, and I could see him kind of come up off of Paul a little bit, but his whole face, his arms, the fingers that just grew really, really long, It was amazing. And the whole room had this surreal atmosphere to it. There was like some fog and things were moving. It was just one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. And even to this date, I'm still fascinated by what we saw. And when Paul does a sitting, it's actually evidence of the Zetas, of the Zeta being. You see it with your own eyes, your real eyes and your third eye, but even these eyes, you see the Zeta being. So there's not many instances and circumstances like that where you get such clear evidence. And I think that's really unique and important.
Mhm.
Oh, wow. I just saw the face come right off. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's not a human face.
That's amazing. I'm so glad we could see that.